Welcome everybody out there listening to KLEAN Radio, a show about addiction and recovery and recovering from alcoholism, mental illness, and all that type of stuff. We have a great show for you tonight. We have, I think actually our first guest to KLEAN Radio, Rand, was when we were on in Anaheim.
Were you our first guest? Was he our first guest?
I think he was our first guest, yeah.
I do remember that. Yeah. I do remember that.
He made the 2-hour drive
down
to come
down
to Angel Stadium. That's how good of a friend he is to KLEAN Radio. The amazingly talented, awesome actor, star of Wild Things 3, Anthony John Denison. Welcome back to KLEAN Radio.
It was Wild Things 2.
It was wild. And also, of course, the longest running show probably on any cable network.
Well, it's a split show. It's The Closer and now Major Crimes. But the fold over, it's not really a spin-off, so it's sort of an evolution. But I've been playing the character now. This is my 10th year.
For 10 years.
I love it.
I mean, that's got to be as far as any. So that's Tony Denison, but star of Major Crimes. But that's got to be one of the longest on TV right now.
On cable, I think so. I mean, certainly. You know,
maybe we should have checked this out beforehand. It's definitely
86% of all statistics are made up on the spot.
We are in the distant dust of The Simpsons and Law and Order and all those shows. I mean, they're on for like ever.
But I think what's also amazing is that you play a sober character on your show, and you're also sober in real life. And
yeah, I am.
You came out of the proverbial, alcoholic closet, and you're one of those people that you have no problem.
The proverbial alcoholic closet.
I was trying to say it.
This is a closet that's filled with people of all. No,
there are people that you've broken your anonymity at a bigger level.
I only just say that I'm in recovery. I never say where I'm in recovery.
But I'm saying you came out and said you're sober, that you've docked, and it takes a lot of courage because I know you've helped a lot of people because, on your show you wear your ring.
Oh, yeah.
And the ring is the actual 12-step symbol. And, so many people get to ask you questions that normally wouldn't be able to ask those questions. And I think that's a very cool thing.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been of service to people, friends, people on the show, like actors or crew people. They have friends, and they say, "Would you mind talking to my friend or my daughter or my brother or cousin?" And yeah, I do it gladly.
And again, Tony Denison from Major Crimes. So let's get to some quick news stories with our with our director Rand DeWitt.
Case Study X. That's who I'll be.
Yes.
Once again, we're going to kick it off with the gift that keeps on giving by the name of Rob Ford. Now, Rob Ford's been all over Ontario. He's been popping up at rehabs, like it's like drive-through rehab. He's going to a different one pretty much every day. He was spotted at 2 different rehabs in the same day. And
he wants a lot of help.
Well, yeah. But it turns in he's got celebrity status there, Tony. And, for Rob Ford to show up and think that he's going to get help and be able to do it like he's ordering a Big Mac, I don't think it's going to work. Don't you think that Rob Ford, mayor of Toronto, had all these problems? It was a year ago last week that video surfaced of him smoking crack came out. And now, don't you think that he needs to, if he's really going to get sober, have to remove himself from the public eye?
Yeah, I mean, he's got to remove himself from the public eye for an indefinite period of time because it's like Toronto has a cartoon character for a mayor. I mean, please, it's at this point, unless he can, leap tall buildings at a single bound, and
he can on crack.
Yeah, right. No, but I mean, unless he has like healing powers where he touches people and they're cured of all, go someplace, take it easy. He obviously has a problem. And because my understanding is prior to all of this stuff surfacing, that he wasn't such a bad guy, as the mayor. I know he comes from a wealthy family, extremely wealthy family, and he's had a privileged life, and maybe, again, addiction knows no boundaries and no borders and no socioeconomic distinction. But if he's as cartoonish as it seems it's going on, it's like I think everybody in Toronto ought to get together and say, no, you got to go someplace. When you come back, maybe you can get your job. I don't know what their, the structure is of elected office in Toronto, but maybe it's best for him to and if he has to resign, then he resigns. If he gets clean and sober and he's in there for 90 days or 6 months or something, and he comes back and he's the same self, but only he's sober, he'll probably get reelected again.
His approval ratings are not that bad.
And I guess some of his fiscal policies are really doing a lot for the city of Toronto.
Yeah, but eventually it's a it's a train wreck waiting to happen. So
did you see him when he came out here at Jimmy Kimmel?
Again, it was like, you ever drive by a really serious car accident on the freeway, and sometimes when you finally get to it, you have to turn away?
Yes.
That's what it was like watching him on Jimmy Kimmel. I saw him on the show, and I just switched off. I said, this is pathetic. I have more important things to do with my life than watch some guy destroy himself in front of me. It's like I have a difficult time watching stories about Lindsay Lohan. I pray for this kid. I hope she finds a way. But I don't want to watch, people stick microphones in her face. Lindsay, what's it like? It's like, I'm not interested in watching the car wreck of somebody's life.
What do you think of his outfit? All black suit, black shirt.
Well,
red
I think
tie,
he was trying to summon up the.
He looked like a 1970s gangster
of Johnny Cash or something.
And if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio, so give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. It's a good question. The question with Rob Ford, I think, essentially is, what are you willing to do to get sober? And that's a question I think so many people, and Tony and I were talking about this before. Like, what is somebody willing to do to get sober? Are they willing to go to a 12-step meeting, raise their hand and say, I need help, no matter what their stature they think they are, no matter. And, for somebody like Rob Ford, for somebody like, or anybody really, they struggle with this.
Well, in life, as in recovery, there's the expression, don't, lose your ass to save your face. And, people think, oh, no, I can't tell you. It's like, are you kidding me? Do you know the stories behind all those people sitting in the room? They would, in some cases, make your experience pale in comparison.
But what's amazing, too, in these cases is that they're on such a public level, right? So if somebody were to see somebody like Rob Ford, they're not going to go, oh, my God, I didn't know Rob Ford had an issue.
Well,
and that's with many people. It's when you get sober, there's this thing that drinkers and drug addicts have. They think they see themselves obviously very differently than the world sees them. The world sees them that something's off, but they can't see that. They think they were really good at hiding the facade that everything was going extremely well.
Right. There's, I'm not busting his anonymity because he's publicly talked about it, but Michael J. Fox used to go to this meeting where I would go to meetings, and the paparazzi used to wait outside for him all the time, and he used to go up to them and say, listen, do me a favor, guys. If you want to take pictures of me, fine. I'll walk down the block here, and you can take a picture of me down the block, but just don't take a picture of me leaving, because there could be some local doctor or something coming out, and then his patients see him on the news. My doctors are drunk, even though he might be sober 20 years, So, and then they wouldn't do it. So he just stopped going to that meeting and started going to, more private meetings. And, it's sad. I mean, you wanted to go out and sort of knock every one of those paparazzis across the head. But, at the end of the day, they're doing what they think is their job, and they're trying to make their living. And,
If you ever do want attention, though, from the paparazzi, you can get it by knocking them in the head. I could guarantee you they will take your picture.
I wouldn't waste my time. I mean, unless one of these fools put their hands on me, then that's another thing entirely. Then all bets are off. But I wouldn't.
Well, there's about 100 of them in the parking lot right now waiting to
we
talk.
actually called them, and Tony, Monique Moss from Integrated PR, that's what she does best. She called the paparazzi, and she said Tony Denison is in studio, and he's ready to hit some of you.
Thank you so much.
We got three
Rand, we got one more story let's get to.
Alcohol deaths are on the rise worldwide. The World Health Organization, also known as WHO,
it's a funny name for the WHO,
yeah. The WHO just, the band actually just issued a report.
So the WHO, yes, issued a report.
Basically, alcohol is killing one person every 10 seconds in the world. And that's shocking. That's me.
Alcohol's killing
one person every 10 seconds in the world.
Really?
That's a crazy statistic, by the way. And
I
just
would
so
have thought
you
it would have been more.
I was at Billy Joel last night, and I tell that to everybody out there to brag, and I was at the Hollywood Bowl, and I don't drink, and I haven't drank for over 15 years, and it doesn't bother me. You know, I don't go to a concert and say, God, I want some. If you ever want a reason to not drink, go to a concert and watch drinkers.
Oh, I know.
It's the biggest turnoff to, I mean, I have never seen such an alcohol consumption as I did last night at the Hollywood Bowl. People picnic. I had to go to the bathroom. It's in a bowl, and somebody goes, "Oh, don't knock the wine over." I'm like, they're like, it wasn't like, hey, can I make more space for you? It was, hey, don't knock the wine over. And people just bringing picnic baskets and people making their own little jugs of moonshine. And I'm like, this is a Billy Joel show. Yeah. This is like not like a Pantera show. And I was actually a little shocked by the amount of alcohol being consumed.
Well, I had heard some statistic from the National Council on Alcoholism that I think 15% of people over the age of 21 worldwide, I think it's worldwide, are alcoholics. Now, which is such a lame statistic because if you think about I didn't wait till I was 21 to start, I was an alcoholic right out of the gate. So there's so many kids out there, 18, 19, 12, 14, 15. So that number is probably 3 times the amount. And if you extrapolate that out in terms of like 15% or to make it 25% of the world population, there's 7 billion people in the world. You know how many alcoholics? No wonder the world has gone crazy some of the times.
And you're listening.
There's so many out there.
And you're listening to KLEAN Radio. That's Tony Denison. So give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. And I was actually, I got to say, I was actually, we're talking about the alcohol consumption. What number? America actually isn't even close to the top 10 of the biggest drinking countries.
Well, I heard that Canada, with their what do they have, like 40 million people or something, or 50 million people? They consume almost as much alcohol as we do.
It's cold up there.
It's actually Belarus is number 1.
Belarus is number 1?
The Republic of Moldova is number 2.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it's all those countries. It's all the countries at war right now are quite the heavy drinkers. I see
run down the top 10. You have a whole list of the top 10 most drunk countries.
It's Lithuania, the Russian Federation. Is that even still around, the Russian Federation? And Romania.
Give it about 10 minutes, they'll be back.
Ukraine, Andorra, Hungary, the Czech Republic, and Portugal. So,
well, I'm sure weather and economics has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, it's like usually with cold weather, it creates that. That's why a lot of butchers have problems with alcohol. Did you know that, Rand DeWitt?
I didn't.
Yeah.
You were just a Sherpa of knowledge.
Yes, I am a Sherpa of unproven knowledge.
Butchers have a problem with alcohol?
So, butchers, yeah, because they're in the freezer the whole time and cutting meat in a cold room. And I just,
Is this like a gag show or something?
And if you just tune in, like I said, you're listening to KLEAN Radio, so give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. We're in the studio tonight with Tony Denison, and you're sober on the show, and it's on your TV show Major Crimes. And I absolutely love this because we've had other, guests in that are also, and, whether it was Eddie McClintock from Warehouse 13 who shared that because he's open about it, fans that normally wouldn't be able to feel comfortable about approaching somebody about this. Has that been your experience, that people have actually asked you about it?
I've had people come up to me on the street occasionally or at events and tell me that they're sober and that how cool it is, and then or people will say, "Oh, I know your character's supposed to be sober. I mean, is it true that you're, And I said, "Yeah, it's true." And they said, "Oh, that's great." It's just, look, whatever way you can help. I mean, I think it was in Bill's farewell address that he said, if we're not careful, we could become Bill Wilson, we could become so anonymous that we would cease to exist. So the anonymity question, I mean, it's a
tough question because of the Michael.
It's a tender.
It's a tough question because of the Michael J. Fox question that you raised, which is an important thing, right? Because he's okay with his anonymity being broken, but if there's a pilot in that meeting,
or a pilot or a
doctor, they might not want their anonymity broken. So for some people, it's anonymity is extremely important because if you got on a plane and you saw that the pilot raised his hand as having 15 days sober, you might not want to get on that flight that day.
I know it's definitely our proposed. So the anonymity question is an individual thing, and yet at the same time, I mean, like I said, I don't say where I'm in recovery. I just say that I'm in recovery, and that's enough. I mean, you got to know. Some crazy, lame reporter might want to know. No, really, what do you? But beyond that, I mean, it's enough. I mean, people get.
And another thing, actually interesting, I wanted to talk about was because the NFL draft happened last week.
God, my eyes are going to glaze over.
And no, but you've been in two amazing revolutionary shows in the last a long time. Which was in the '80s was Crime Story. Mm-hmm. Then you were on ESPN's first scripted TV show, which was an amazing show called Playmakers.
Playmakers was great.
And I didn't love the show because the reason I didn't love the show is because I didn't want to watch what was going on with my heroes, and you showed these stories about really what's going on in the lives of NFL players. The NFL actually threatened ESPN and said, if you don't get rid of the show,
we'll, pull our
NFL contracts, basically.
Yeah, that's what I was told.
Yeah, and not by me either. I didn't tell him that. That would have been a great rumor rant to start. But, and lately you see, there have been obviously, tons of cases of issues, and it's becoming more and more and more and more about the addiction going on and all that stuff. And last week we were talking about something, and it drives me crazy. We talk about addiction a lot, and we talk about it in our society, and I don't think people realize enough. People talk about pot not being a problem, right? And we spoke about this around last week, that if you're willing to blow millions of dollars because you want to smoke pot, if that's not addiction, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I mean, it's in baseball, in basketball, sometimes, look at the lives of Doc Gooden and Darryl Strawberry.
Right.
They were completely destroyed. And these guys had it all, and they had it all like from such a young age. But and some guys, they're in it for a while, and then all of a sudden you start to feel invincible. You're in a stadium with 50, 60,000 people screaming your name, and you make some great plays, and you're the football hero of a particular game, let's say. You start to think you're invincible and nothing's going to hurt you. But at the end of the day, you're human and you're gifted, I don't know what the whole story is behind what happened with Playmakers, but I think like if one side thought that it was hurting the sport, then they're totally entitled to that viewpoint. And if another group of people say, no, it's not, well, then somewhere along the line, one person, says, yes, it does, and the other person says, no, it doesn't. And they're all coming from their own vested self-interest. But maybe at the end of the day, showing people in a series like I know that I'm a cop, and we show that there are cops who are addicts and alcoholics, and we show there are shows where firemen are alcohol. Sometimes it's important for people to know that, especially if you're really a cop or a fireman. Or a ball player, to know that there's an opportunity or place for you to maybe get help.
Right. And if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio. That's Tony Denison. Give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. Let's go to Deborah calling from Seattle. Welcome to KLEAN Radio, Deborah. Deborah?
Yes.
How are you? Welcome to KLEAN Radio.
Thank you. Thank you for taking my call.
And you're in the studio tonight with Tony Denison. Say hi to Tony.
Hey, Tony.
Hi, Deborah. How are you?
How can we help you tonight, Deborah?
I think it's more along the lines of my experience.
Yes.
Is alcoholic for 15 years. It's about the only thing that I consumed as far as beverages. And there is the number one cause of diabetes is sugar diabetes. It's an uncontrolled blood sugar level.
Right. The
number two cause is alcoholic neuropathy, because it's a blood sugar. You drink it and your blood sugar shoots up, and the pancreas and the liver don't know how to work in conjunction with each other, and over time you become paralyzed, starting with the longest limbs first. I'm not a doctor, but this is sharing my experience, is that if you start with your toes and then move to your fingers, your limbs become slowly over time, they become numb. And you feel like you have a very thin layer of gloves on, so you can't pick things up, like pick a penny off the floor or that type of thing. and your feet stop knowing where they're supposed to be. And I just got out of the hospital at 5 days.
So, Deborah, are you sober now?
Yes.
How long have you been sober?
Couple of weeks.
That's great.
How does it feel?
Congratulations.
That's the one that you get your life back, right? You get your brain back.
Yes. But,
Well, here's the deal, though, Deborah. The consequences of it getting better is that the better you start to feel and the more aware and the healthier you start to feel, the more you're going to need to go to whatever it is, meetings or read the book or whatever it is, because eventually you're going to say, oh, okay, if I do things in moderation, it'll be okay because look how good I feel
That's
now.
a good question. Are you going to meetings?
Yes.
That's great. Have you found like somebody to sponsor you and all that stuff, Deborah?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
That's great.
that's great.
That's
It's through my church.
Okay, however it is.
what
Right.
what any port in a storm.
Right. Well put. Well spoken.
That's what Tony's great at. If you ever want something like that, Tony is the master at coming up with. He's from New York. He could come up with a line for anything. I like that. What'd you say, Tony? Any
Port in a storm.
We got to tag that line, Rand, and so let's save
exactly.
that. Deborah, I want you to keep in touch with us and let us know how you're doing.
Oh, thank you again for taking my call. But
Yeah.
may I just throw out one more thing?
One more thing, go
right
for
ahead.
it.
Nerve cells are the only cells in your body that do not regenerate. You
Really?
break your fingernails, it grows a new one. You get a cut on your leg or your arm, it grows a new one. The cells rejuvenate. They come back. Your
Right.
skin heals, your muscles, cartilage over time. But nerve cells are the only cells in your body that does not regenerate. And every drink, every ounce of alcohol, you are killing nerve cells. You remember when you were in high school, you'd go, hey, yeah, let's go out and kill some nerve cells in our brain,
Well,
you know.
conversely, with
horsing around.
drugs,
But
yeah.
the nerve cells are the only cells in your body that do not regenerate. So this is permanent.
Yes, and and Deborah, you're sharing, and you know what's amazing is that you're actually, and thanks for the call. The thing that's amazing is that you woke up with the consequences, and even though you have them, you're still saying it's still important for me to stay sober, because so many people's biggest reason for going back to drinking is they say, well, it was easier like there. I'd rather be numb and in pain. And if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio. We're going to be back in a couple seconds. Give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. Discussion continues at KLEAN Radio.
Don't let addiction to drugs or alcohol steal another year of your life. KLEAN Treatment Center provides world-class addiction assistance that also treats the underlying causes and provides vital aftercare so people can get clean and stay clean. Live, kind, professional help is standing by to provide immediate assistance or to simply answer questions and provide guidance. If you or someone you care about is suffering from addiction, take action now and make 2014 the best year of your life with KLEAN Treatment Center. Now back to Andrew Spanswick and Judah Friedman.
Welcome back to KLEAN Radio. No Andrew tonight, but sitting in studio tonight is Tony Denison, star of the TV show Major Crimes. And, it's amazing is that the last caller was talking about abusing your body with alcohol and the consequences that happen from it. You've almost, you've had sort of, you got your first major gig in 1986. And, there's a crazy new statistic out. It's not really, they said Britain does so much cocaine, it's now in the drinking water. And you were sober for 12 years, for a long time. Even during your first big break, you were sober from cocaine, but not alcohol.
Not alcohol, no.
And then you got sober in 93?
I got officially completely sober in 93.
And
I stopped drugs in 84, but...
How was that career-wise? You get your big break in 86, but you were still drinking. Did you even realize you had alcoholism at that point?
I probably did I probably did, but I just didn't. I mean, let's look at it this way. When I went to the meetings in New York, I was totally dead set against the idea that I'm an alcoholic. I just didn't want to accept that. I said, I get it with the cocaine. I totally understand that, and pot and all the other. Yeah, okay, I get it. But alcohol, come on. It's not, what's the big deal having a drink every once in a while? So that was the only reason why later on I realized I was able to stop doing drugs, was because I kept drinking. And my capacity for alcohol, which was amazing, now diminished to the point where eventually even 3 glasses of wine, which was the last drunk I had, would annihilate me. And I finally had to come to the realization, yeah, guess what? I'm an alcoholic. And the alcohol worked for a while, and then it stopped working. The drugs worked for a while, then they stopped working. Then the alcohol worked for a while, then it stopped. I mean, my gateway drug has always been alcohol. I started out drinking. It took me a while before I smoked my first joint. I think I was like 18 years old when before that, and I was afraid of drugs, and I thought, oh, no. But once I did my first drug, it was like, whew, I was in a rocket ship, exploring all kinds of foreign lands with,
But, I think what you talk about, though, too, is very important. That I think a lot of people out there that are driving, that are listening from home, I think people's biggest fear sometimes is what you used to think that people, you'd have to raise your hand and say, hi, I'm Tony, and I'm a loser.
Oh, that was my big fear.
That I'm a loser.
I'm a loser.
That I suck at life.
Yeah.
And I think so many people have that fear. It's I don't get with, where they get
that admission of powerlessness is the firm bedrock upon which purposeful and useful lives can be built. So the minute you say, okay, you know what, I surrender,
right,
then all of a sudden it's like all the pressure is taken off of you. And say, okay, I've been operating under a system that's not working. I've been operating under a system of myths, rumors, and legends, and it making me unhappy. Like I've said to you before, my belief system. Am I happy with what I was believing? No. So it's time for some new beliefs. Most of the beliefs I had were all hand-me-downs from family, friends, and what I picked up from the culture, and they weren't helping me. And so I get to AA, I get to the rooms, and I say, I surrender, and then they say, okay, how about this? It's like my sponsor says to me, the humility is the state of being teachable. And since I love to learn, and I always have loved to learn, I could get behind that big time. And I thought, all right, let me know. I mean, my dad, God rest his soul, he was an immigrant from Sicily and truck driver, but he always used to say to me, Anthony, if you don't know the answer to a question, he says it's important that you ask. He said because the embarrassment of asking is nowhere near the pain of not knowing. And that was like, I had to know for fear that you would think I was stupid. Now it's kind of like, I don't know, help me out. I don't know, help me out.
Right, but when it comes to this topic, when it comes to mental illness, there is still that fear. There is still, there are people that are so scared. We have people that call in that just leave comments. That they're scared to get on the air and talk about this. And it's fascinating to me because we live in a society today where nobody's scared to show anything, where people will shoot selfies of themselves in bathrooms. They'll take pictures everywhere. But for them to say out loud, I need help, that terrifies people.
All right, well, what's a sign of mental illness? I mean, there's so many. One is, talking to yourself. Okay. One of the habits I picked up from my dad, as now I find out so many other people pick up from their parents. Like my dad used to drive the car. He would be driving the car, and he'd see a billboard, and it would say, Robert Halls is having a sale. He'd read it aloud. He goes, oh, Robert Hall is having a sale. I said, Dad, what are you talking about? And he said, oh, the sign. And I find myself today driving in the car. Thank God for cell phones, so people don't think I'm talking.
But that's actually another addiction, by the way.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Bloomingdale's is having a sale. Oh, okay. And I say it aloud.
There's actually new studies on texting addiction too. So I mean, there's tons.
Yeah, I'm sure. Look, everybody's addicted to something, is what I understand. Some addictions are far more tragic and painful to the individual and those around them than others. But everybody's addicted to something. People who like to work out too much, people who like to shop too much, people who like to eat too much, you name it, so on down the line. It's interesting. Alcoholics and drug addicts, there's people who talk about this being a disease. It's the only disease that people have. If it is, I don't know if I necessarily agree 100% with that, but it's the only disease that people have that people get mad at you. If you have cancer, nobody gets mad at you. If you have diabetes, but you're an alcoholic, they get mad at you.
We've actually discussed that a lot on the show, and part of that is because the damage alcoholics do.
Yeah.
The cancer patient isn't doing that same thing. The diabetic isn't doing that.
No, I didn't.
Right.
But, if you believe that it's a disease.
Right.
I agree, I accept the malady. the physical malady, was a spiritual malady, allergy of the body. I accept all of that. And if, again, like going back to my first day in the rooms, if somebody said, look, you have to accept it as a disease, I would have went, okay, because I'm fresh out of ideas.
Right.
So I'll accept it until such time as I can find some other, more palatable belief. But yet at the same time, I'm more than willing to support anybody who believes that.
And if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio. That's Tony Denison. We're in studio with tonight, so give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's
Boy, the lines are lighting up, huh?
Yeah, it's a slow night, and there's a lot going on sometimes, People, we're up against the NBA playoffs, the NHL, the baseball. Got a lot going on. And, Monique didn't inform the paparazzi quick enough that you'd be in studio tonight. So give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. And something that's very important to talk about, and we're not about abstinence. We're not the temperance movement, and I've said that before. We're not about not drinking. We're about sort of watching stuff. And college drinking is always on the rise. The amount of binge drinking, about half of college students who drink also consume alcohol through binge drinking. 1,825 college students between the ages of 18 and 24 die each year from college, from drinking-related injuries. And that, it's got to be terrifying for parents. It's got to be terrifying for family members. As the summer's coming up, as school, your kids in college. And, there's got to be, we like to become so okay with everything, parents with being okay, good friends with their kids. But there's got to be a line that sometimes the parent isn't your friend. That they're not. They're not your buddy. They're your parent. And you drank in college. I know the amount of drugs you used in college, but just because you used the amount of drugs in college, it doesn't make it okay to share those. To say to your kid, well, because I did this, this is okay.
Well, no, but at the same time,
it's very hard.
It's It's a balancing act that unfortunately or fortunately, I don't have any children. I wish I did, but I don't. But that I don't have firsthand experience at, but it must be a really difficult balancing act because there's so many kids now who are smoking pot, at least. So many kids out there who are getting drunk, abusing alcohol. And for a parent, I guess, to say, no, they're only saying that because they've learned the hard way and they're trying to, out of love, prevent their child from experiencing the same, nightmare they went through. But no matter how hard you try, sometimes you just can't. The person has to experience it for themselves.
I agree with that. And I don't know if somebody had told me don't do this, I wouldn't have done this. But I do think we have become very socially okay with certain things. We talk about this with pot. We talk about this. What's wrong with sometimes standing up and saying, you know what, sometimes too much is too much. We had that, the thing in Colorado where you had 30,000 people fighting to get high, celebrating pot weekend and all that stuff, the grace of pot. And I think it is important sometimes for us to say, I get it. I get what you're doing, but I get what you're fighting, or you're fighting for this to become legal. But, we have to sometimes worry about children. We worry about teenagers. And I think that's very important sometimes.
The alcohol, if it's that we were alcoholics right out of the gate, it doesn't matter if pot is legal or illegal. I found a way to do it. Didn't matter that cocaine was legal or illegal. I found a way to do it. I didn't ever once sat down and snorted lines of cocaine thinking to myself, boy, I could go to jail for this. I mean, not once. And did I ever buy alcohol with a phony ID card? You betcha. Did I ever think I could get in trouble for this? No. I mean, I wanted to get high. So it doesn't matter if it's legal or illegal. I mean, just, you know what? If a kid's going to wind up getting all kinds of a criminal record because he's smoking pot when he could, at 18, drink legally and still get just as screwed up. I mean, it's a little hypocritical.
We've made laws. We've made sexting laws in this country now, right? Where teenagers can't send naked pictures of themselves. Why, in a sense? Why are teenagers sending naked pictures of themselves, thinking it's okay to do so?
Because the ability to do it is there.
But plus, we've become so okay. People have famous careers. You wanted the phone lines to light up. People have. have made careers of this, whether it's, the Kardashians, Paris Hilton. It became so okay.
I mean, but I don't know if I agree with you on that.
You don't have to, but let's get to a call. You could disagree with me later.
If you take like the advent of the Beatles hitting the scene, what people supposed to do? Not listen to them because they look so different.
Exactly.
And sort of changed.
Exactly. That's why. And you actually heard the Beatles, which is really cool. You saw the Beatles,
twice.
And they played at your college. And,
no, they didn't play at my college. I wish they did. They didn't.
Let's go to Carly in Pasadena. Welcome to KLEAN Radio, Carly.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for being on.
I just wanted to thank your guests very much because I am a young person who is also in the room, and it is my hope that with more public awareness about addiction and alcoholism, and that there is a place to go, that more young people can make it into the room sooner and earlier, especially with the rate at which drugs is taking people out.
I agree with you on that. Yeah, if it's more readily available, the alcoholic and the drug addict, fortunately or unfortunately, they're going to get to their bottom a lot quicker and say, "Hey, what am I doing here?" And but there's the life-threatening risk too. So I understand that, but I don't know. When you got high, did you ever think about the fact that it was against the law? I didn't.
Can I tell you something? I actually did, because I'm one of those rare few. I was a drinker, and drugs, the fear of drugs. I was just a drinker. I was a drinker, but the fear of drugs, I would hear stories.
I was afraid of drugs too until I was 18. Then I did my first drug, and I was like, wow.
I heard the story of Sid Barrett doing too much acid, and then he mowed his mother, the guy from Floyd, and then he mowed his mother's lawn the rest of his life because he had a bad trip, and that actually scared me.
No, but both are valid, Judah. What I'm saying is that I've run across a lot of people who lost their marbles, so to speak, from meth and it's a lot of speed, not even necessarily hallucinogens like LSD, though some have. But at the end of the day, it's like it's still not going to stop some kid.
You're right. I completely agree with you. The guy that goes to school the way they used to do it, and showing kids, all the stuff. And,
the cop.
And, the cop and all that stuff. I never left going, man, that cop had some valid points. Carly, how long are you sober now?
4 years.
That's amazing.
Good for you.
And how old are you, if you don't mind me asking? I know it's improper to ask a woman, but you're on the radio, so.
Oh, it's okay. I'm 27.
That's great. So you got sober when you were 23. And it's really cool because I got sober when I was 22. And one of the cool things, and I'm 38 right now, and one of the cool things that I get to see is that the young people, the influx of young people in sobriety has grown. I mean, even since I got here 16 years ago, it's amazing. And it's really cool that if young people could see that, what are you doing with your life now?
I'm actually going to school, finishing up some stuff in the medical area, and definitely in an area I never would have been able to get close to prior to getting sober.
That's great. And do you watch TV at all?
I do.
So you have to watch Major Crimes. It's Tony's on the show. He's been starring on it for 3 years, and he's really awesome on it, and he plays a sober dude on it.
I love it. And you know what? After hearing him on here, I absolutely will tune in and check it out.
That's great.
And he's, just so you know, it's really cool. Tony's, Tony and I have been friends for, we're more than friends. And that sounded really bad.
We're like family.
We're like family. And
not like lovers.
But not that there's anything wrong with that. But but here's the thing. Time Magazine actually voted Tony as one of the best villains of the 1980s because he was on a show called Crime Story, and they voted him and Larry Hagman from Dallas as the best villains. Tony played a psychotic murderer on this show called Crime Story, and he's actually one of the sweetest people you'll ever meet in your life. And you better start watching. It's imperative to your sobriety, Carly. It'll help you. It'll help you get to 5 years sober.
I'll go check out the big book and find where that is in there. But
it's in the Judah book. Okay. Now go to Facebook.com/KLEAN Radio. Like us, and so we can send you some swag, and so you can take pictures of it with us.
I absolutely will do that.
Thank you so much, Carly.
Thanks.
Have a great night. And that was Carly from Pasadena. If you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio, so give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. And Tony, we've actually lost some calls during the show, so I apologize to the people that have had their calls dropped. But that's really cool that she called in. She wanted to thank you. And you know, when I first saw you when I was a kid growing up, you were on that show Crime Story. And I think that is, you know, we're talking about anonymity so much. You know, when I first saw you at a meeting when I had moved out here, I had recognized you as the guy from that show. But I also was amazed that you were also the guy at the 12-step meeting that was taking people's court cards and signing them. And there's a certain, you know, humility to that, you know, to what you were doing. And, you know, that's, you know, we were talking about, you know, doing the work and not, you know, whether you're famous, and we were going back to Rob Ford, you just decided to sink your teeth into the 12 steps. You didn't care who you thought you were anymore. Right.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I you know, I was so unhappy so much of the day. And in AA, I've learned to, I know I've talked to you about this and I share it a lot when I speak in the podium. I've learned to be happy with who I am, not what I am. The what I am and all the other things beyond that are an extension of the happiness that I've been able to generate internally. And I've only been able to do that because of the rooms, because of the program. And, you know, it doesn't work 24/7. But, you know, there's a line in that book, The 12 and 12, that says, peace of mind, the precious gift that we're asked to celebrate is peace of mind. That's what I'm looking for from the minute my eyes open in the morning to when I go to bed at night, is to have as much peace of mind as I possibly can.
You and the band Boston, because that was a famous song of theirs.
It really was?
Yeah, Peace of Mind. It's one of my favorite songs, right, Rand? By Boston, and Brand's from Boston. That's why I say that. Oh. Let's go to Buddy in Portland, Oregon. Welcome to KLEAN Radio, Buddy.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, and just so everybody knows, this isn't the Buddy that's normally in studio. He's not calling it. So, Buddy, how goes it?
It goes good. I just had a question. You know, one of the biggest aspects of me staying clean is my support group.
Yes.
And I was wondering how he was able to get a support group, being like he's a famous person. I mean, did people treat him differently in the rooms? Did he ever...
They treat him worse because they didn't like his TV show. And no, it's actually a really good question. How were you treated when you first started getting sober?
Well, when I first came to meetings, I thought people were like acknowledging me. You know, they go, "Hey, man, welcome," and I thought they were saying, "Oh, welcome," because they recognized me from Crime Story. Yeah. Then I realized they were just greeting at the door. You know, I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, okay," you know. And but a few people recognized me, but clearly I am not the most famous guy. At a lot of the meetings I go to, there are people with higher visibility than me that are there that, you know, are people come over and say, "Hey, nice to see you." And they're saying it not because you're at the meeting, but because you're an alcoholic at the meeting, because you're who you are and an alcoholic at the meeting. And that's okay. I mean, if it makes somebody happy to go over and talk to some celebrity who's in the rooms and they get the chance to say, "Hey, this guy's not much different than me," if they can gather a little peace of mind from that, then that's great. Why not?
Buddy, how long are you sober?
I got 5 years.
That's amazing. And he's actually listening to us on a station in Portland. How did you find out about us? Just the regular radio?
You know, I just, you know, I was on my way to a meeting as of right now, and I just started hearing it, and I was like, man, that's really cool because of.
You know what's really cool, by the way? Apparently a lot of sober people or people that are drinking listen to talk radio, because I listen to talk radio, and you go to a meeting. So do me a favor, when you get home, go to facebook.com/KLEAN Radio, like us so we could get to see who you are. We could get to send you some stuff, and you're always welcome to call before the meeting, after the meeting. Let us know how you're doing.
Can I ask you one more question?
Yes, you could ask us as many as you want.
On the pot issue.
Yes.
You know, I was a big pothead. You know, most of my 20s and 30s, and as far as it being legal, you know, like he was saying that, you know, people would still use it whether it was legal or not. But I think the issue is there. Like in Portland, it's kind of legal, and in Washington it is too. And I've noticed since that happened, is people are just smoking it at bus stops, you know, and they're smoking it walking down the street. And you know,
I couldn't agree with you more.
And then my kids got to see it. And I think that just shows them that, oh, well, that's not a big deal. I'll try that for sure. So it's like easier to get that first step. That's the easy one to knock off, and the next one's going to be even easier to get to, like heroin or meth or something like that. I don't know.
I know, you know, Buddy, you really raise a good point. And here's the point that Buddy, more than anything, is bringing up, Tony, is that we're discussing an issue, right? We finally, as a country, are discussing this issue. But before the discussion is done, we make rules in certain places, right? And we've discussed this on the show before. We haven't set up plans for what's going to happen once we make things legal. You know, it's okay to discuss. It's okay to discuss legality. But what he's bringing up is people are smoking it on the street. You know, they're smoking it all over, yet there are no rules set up for when that happens. Because isn't Buddy allowed to bring his kid down the street?
But also people who smoke cigarettes outside, the kid looks at that and says, oh, what's the big deal? Smokes cigarettes and gets cancer and dies.
You're completely right.
Or what about the guy?
But they
What about the guy standing on the bus stop with his friend, you know, cursing like a sailor? Kid comes along and he starts hearing all these curse words and suddenly he starts using them.
I say we ban everything, okay?
Yeah, so
Tony, that's where I'm at this point.
Or the person who's sitting there drinking, you know, in a little brown paper bag. I mean, I understand this. You wish that there was a way to regulate, but you cannot regulate morality.
I
don't agree, but
yeah,
thank you for
you don't have to agree with him because he's famous. He gets that a lot. People just agreeing with him.
No matter what the laws are, people are going to find a way around it.
Buddy, do me a favor, though. Enjoy your meeting. Get there safely. And when you get home, like us.
The spirit of the law.
I will do that. Thank you.
You got it, buddy. The spirit of the law is what's the most important thing.
Yeah. No, yeah, Tony, I'm not disagreeing.
I totally go along with the idea that, that's a little crazy smoking pot at a bus stop. You know, have a little decorum. Use your head. But
let's go to Rich in Tampa, Florida. Rich, welcome to KLEAN Radio.
Hey, dude. How are you, man?
Good. How are you?
Hi, Rich.
Doing well.
Are you the guy that used to listen to us drinking?
Yeah, man.
And I love this dude. You know, here's a perfect example because I posed this question one night, Tony, like how many people are listening to us drunk? And Rich was a guy that was listening to us drunk. And how long do you have sober now, Rich?
Today is 3 months, man.
Congratulations.
Good for you, Rich.
That is awesome. And what can we do for you tonight, Rich?
Nothing. I just really wanted to check in and say I was digging the show.
Yeah.
And Tony said something cool that I was kind of thinking about before he brought it up about basically identity in sobriety. He said he learned how to
be happy with who I am. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's I guess that's pretty common because I really struggle with that myself.
Hey, man, I went through divorce, bankruptcy. I lost my house
in the same year.
And I was like 7 years sober at that point, and I thought, wow, what's going on with my life? But I said, I can't be one of those guys who goes to meetings, you know, pulling up in a Bentley saying, you know, life is beautiful and hey, just go to meetings, get a sponsor and, you know, pray all the time, you know, and have like millions of dollars in the bank. Not to say that those people aren't valid, but for this particular alcoholic, it was important for me to finally get to the place and say, you know what, I've got to be a friend to people in AA in fair weather or foul. And that's what I learned. So, and I learned it from you all. You know, I didn't know how to do that before I got I was totally, you know, hey, I believe God was Santa Claus. I was a good boy. I got all the gifts and you know, and goodies and Christmas. And if I was bad, I wasn't going to get them. And Santa Claus loved the other kids better than me because look how their lives were. I mean, there's a crazy way to live.
So, Rich, have you gone on Facebook yet? So we could.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, do me a favor. Private message me so we could send you some nice stuff for your 90-day gift.
Oh, cool, man. Yeah, I definitely will.
And
congratulations.
You found meetings and all that jazz, and you're.
Yeah. I actually got. I did one tonight. Yes.
That's amazing, and I love that he was listening to the show. I love that he was listening to the show drinking, and that he got sober. I think that because I was asking how masochistic is it to listen to a show where we deal with sobriety and you're drinking at the same time. Because I used to do it when I used to work in radio years ago in Florida. Dr. Laura. She was one of the shows that we syndicated, and I remember I would come down out of my stupors listening to Dr. Laura. And let me tell you something, that's not easy to do. So, Rich, I congratulate you on 90 days, and send us your address and all that jazz.
All right, brother, I will.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio. Tony Denison, I want to thank you again and for coming in. When does the new season of Major Crimes come out? Tony?
The new season starts June 9th.
And, I mean, it's pretty amazing. The show's been going on. And I just want to say it's really cool what you were just saying because about 10 years ago, you went through the roughest year of your life You stayed sober through it, and 10 years later, you've been on a show. And that's amazing. That's an absolutely amazing thing.
12 years ago.
And go to Facebook. You could go to Tony's page, like him, tell him how much you love him on Major Crimes. And I want to thank everybody out there. I want to thank all the callers that got through tonight. I want to thank all the callers that didn't go through tonight. Tom, your question on what is your take on the 11 tradition, we will always get to that. We will get to that next week. Rand, thank you. And I want to thank everybody. Monique Moss, the best PR person in the world. Patrick, our video guy. This discussion continues at KLEANRadio.com.
Don't let addiction to drugs or alcohol steal another year of your life. KLEAN Treatment Center provides world-class addiction assistance that also treats the underlying causes and provides vital aftercare so people can get clean and stay clean. Live, kind, professional help is standing by to provide immediate assistance or to simply answer questions and provide guidance. If you or someone you care about is suffering from addiction, take action now and make 2014 the best year of your life with KLEAN Treatment Center.